the surface bedrock in Elmira comes from which geological period? So now the question is we have to figure out which page of the Earth Science Reference Table is going to help us answer the question. So right off the bat, we know it's not page 2. That much is clear. Now, but is it page 3? Looks like it might be page 3. So we want to look again at what the question was. All right, and let me just actually expand this a little bit. And so the question is, the surface bedrock in Elmira comes from which geological period? And so we have to look. So here is Elmira. Does everybody see that? There is Elmira. And now you look at the legend, you know, and in the case of Elmira, you see the little dots. And what's the answer? Raise your hand if you figured out the answer. Joey's raising his hand. Go ahead.
No, it's from before. It's from before.
That's what I thought. Okay. Isaac, you're raising your hand because you know the answer? Probably from before. Okay. So in any case, so I'll do the first one with you guys together. So if you look at Elmira, you see it's the dot. And then if you look at the legend, right, you could see the answer is Devonian. Everybody sees that? It's a pretty easy question. Well, not terribly easy, but it's not a terrible question. And again, the thing is, you have to know how to use this chart to figure it out. Now, it looks like we're not going to be doing the entire sheet today, by the way. We're only doing the first sheet. We're going to save the other sheets for next week, by the way. Okay? So let's look now at question number 2. Is the bedrock in Elmira mostly sedimentary or metamorphic? So again, we know this is Elmira. We know that we already established that it's Devonian. Now, if you look at the chart, it basically tells you the answer. So what do you think the answer is? Jack, go ahead. No? Yeah? No? Okay. Anybody know the answer? This should be easy. Go ahead. Albert? No?
No, but I accidentally raised my hand.
Okay. Joey, you know the answer?
Yeah. Silurian.
So again, if you see, here's Devonian, and over here it says sedimentary. And so the answer is sedimentary. Again, look at how we started. Elmira, Devonian, sedimentary. Now, the next question it asks is, would you find fossils here? Would you find fossils in the Devonian period? So, first of all, we know that page 2 doesn't answer the question. It does not appear that page 3 talks about fossils either, right? So that means we got to look at page 8 or page 9 to see if it talks about the fossils. And again, the period was called Devonian. And we have to find, so look at this. It is on page 8. And we have to look at what was going on during page during that time period, Devonian. So we see, according to them, it was around 359 million years ago. Okay, and during that time, you see that there were a lot of amphibians and plants and fire forests, and and you also see here a list of the fossils that would have been possible. Okay, so we see A through N. Now we might have to look over here to see more additional information. And so how can we figure out if there were fossils? This is a little tricky, this one, by the way. So here's the clue. We see that it says it was 359 million years ago, right? And now I go to page 9, and here's a 359, and we see that the fossils, as we know, are A through N, and actually O through Z as well. And so we see, actually, look, 359 million years ago, we had fossils Z, X, V, R, Q. So the answer is yes. Okay. By the way, in most cases, almost every time period, of course, had fossils. Okay, so let's move on now to question 3. Hopefully this is going to get a little easier. These are not easy questions. This is why we're doing this together, because I want you to understand what the story is. Okay, so question 3 says, the surface bedrock in Syracuse comes from which geological period? So, as you might imagine, we got to go back to page 3. And we need to look for which one again? We need to look for Syracuse. So the first thing we have to do is find Syracuse on the map. So where is Syracuse? So right over here, I did a little trick. If you hit Control F on a PC or on a Mac, you hit Apple F, it shows me where Syracuse is. I'll actually show you. I'm just making it so that it's easier to see. Okay, so now look at this. We see Syracuse. Now that we see Syracuse, we look at, we have the straight lines. And so the straight lines, which geologic period does the straight lines represent? What do you think? Look at the map. This should be getting easier now. I hope everyone has their Earth Science reference table open. Otherwise, this becomes impossible to do. Let me try to, yeah, go ahead, Avi. Hey, Avi, I'm muted. Well, let me try again. Oh, this is crazy technology. Okay, so go ahead.
The answer is Silurian.
Right, Silurian. Yeah, and again, you're getting the hang of this, which is good. Because again, you see over here, here's Syracuse. Here's the picture, and they look the same. Okay, and again, like I've said before, these kind of skills are not only in earth science, they also teach it in global history. At least they should. And it's a little bit in U.S. history too, but it's really more of a global thing, to be honest with you. You have to know how to read maps. Okay, so let's look at question 4 now. Is the bedrock in Syracuse mostly sedimentary or metamorphic? This should be getting easier now. Joey, go ahead.
Metamorphic.
So let's look at that. And you notice that it says sedimentary. Okay? You just have to follow the chart. And then the next question is, would you find fossils here? What do you think? Joe, you want to try?
No.
Actually, the answer is yes. As I've said, in almost every case, the answer is yes. I mean, we could go to the chart and look, of course. We would have to look for the time period that's Silurian. As we could see, it was about 416 million years ago. So we find the 416. And then, so it's between this and this, between 359 and 458. And as you could see, they have all these fossils that were coming. In almost every time period, by the way, you always have fossils. So usually, if you're guessing the answer is always going to be yes. And again, I understand this is a little tricky because you're not usually reading geologic charts. Not exactly the funnest thing to do. And again, as I was saying, is it sedimentary? Yes. Will you find fossils? Yes. Okay. Now, the next question is going to be, Aviel's got his hand up. You go ahead. No?
So.
Okay. I'll lower your hand for you. Okay. And anyhow, so the next question I have to admit is a tougher question actually. The surface bedrock is 44 degrees north. So the first thing we have to do now is we have to look for where is the 44 degree north and 75 degrees west. Okay, so let's go through this. So, by the way, this is on page 3, as you could see. And everyone sees over here by Lake Champlain is the 44 degrees. And then where is the 75 degrees? So it's over here. So let me actually make a line with this. Let me just, that's actually worthwhile doing. I'll draw a little line in this case. Let me find my tools here. All right, so I want to annotate. I want to make a line. All right, that's not the way I wanted to do it exactly. All right, can I, okay, very good. And now I want to move my line. So let's review this again, because this is a tricky one. Everyone sees my line, hopefully, okay? So right over here is the 44 degrees angle. Everyone sees that? Okay? Now, so actually, maybe I'll leave the line over here. It's not a bad place to leave a line. And let me ask them to give me another line. Okay, and now I'll take a second line. This is a good way to do this, actually. Actually, this is one of the advantages of using Zoom technology. Wouldn't be so easy to do this in class, by the way. Computer's a little bit better, right? But in any case, so we understand that, south is down, north is up. So over here, 44 north, 75 west, okay? And so I'm gonna move it up. And right over here, in the area of Old Forge, is the area. So now it's asking which geologic period does 44° north and 75° west represent? So again, look very closely at the picture, and then look very closely at this map, and you should be able to figure out which picture looks the same. All right, has anyone figured out what the geologic period is? Again, look very closely at the picture. Most of them, like for example, we know the picture does not look like Triassic. We know it doesn't look like Pennsylvanian or Devonian or Silurian or Ordovician. So I just gave away that these ones on the top over here are definitely the wrong answer. But now that I made it a little easier, what do you think the correct answer is? Go ahead, Joey.
It's probably Cambrian.
So it is not Cambrian, but that was a good guess. Aviel?
It is the Middle Proterozoic.
That is correct. It is Middle Proterozoic. And again, this is a little tricky because, you know, I could see how if you look at the oceans, it would get you confused. But remember, I did the measurement to show you that it's right over here, not over here. Like if Joey obviously was looking at this part, so it's understandable why he, you know, made a mistake. But it's actually over here. And if you look at the picture, it's Middle Proterozoic, okay? And so again, like I said, this is a hard question. This is why I wanted to do this classwork together. Just having you do it by yourself, I think would have been a big mistake. Avi.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can I write the answers on a sheet of paper and send it to you afterwards?
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't need to write the question down.
Not a problem. You don't have to write out the questions, only the answers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just number it 1 through 14. Remember,
Okay.
we're only doing page, I don't even know if we're going to get the whole thing done today, to be honest with you. But that's okay. If we have to, you might not, it may not be due today because it's 4:13 already. But again, like I said, this is not easy. And that's why I thought I kind of knew I had to do this with you guys together. It's the same thing that I did with last year's 10th grade. This is the kind of stuff we have to do together. These are not easy questions. But I think if we do this enough, it will get easier. David, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay, I have trouble with this because I don't understand what you're really doing. So can you go through like from 1 to 6, just repeat the answers? Because I'm not understanding what
Oh, you know what
you're
I'm
doing.
doing? You know what I'm
But
going
I'm
to
pretty
do?
sure I have.
You know what I'm going to do? What happened? I just lost you. There you are. David, here's what I'm going to do. For anyone who missed the answers, I'm going to post the video online, and you can review it yourself. Okay? In other words, if you weren't paying attention, you could review the video and find out the answers. Okay? Anyhow, I like that idea much better. Okay, so let's move on, because the whole point is to learn how to do this. Not that I just give you the answers. I can give you the answers, but it's a lot more effective if you actually learn how to do this. I think that's so much more important. Okay, so let's move on to question 6. So this is a little bit easier, this question. Let me just find my mouse again. All right, so now it's asking me what type of rocks could be found in Jamestown. So again, I'm going to do my little trick where I use the document to find Jamestown, the little trick that I do with my search box. And so over here is Jamestown. And so what types of rocks will you find in Jamestown? Okay, anybody? This should be very easy. Like again, look at the diagram, the legend of Jamestown. find out which geologic period Jamestown is, and then it gives you a description of what kind of rocks you would find in Jamestown. So give yourself a minute to figure out what kind of rocks are in Jamestown. Aviel, go ahead.
You see limestone, shale, sandstone, and conglomerate.
That's correct. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Let me just undo that. Let me delete that. Okay, but that's correct that you could see that Jamestown has a Devonian legend, and therefore the answer is limestone, shales, sandstones, and conglomerate. Okay, very important. The more practice we get with this, the easier this gets. So let's move on to question 7. Again, I'm going to use my trick where I type in Oswego, okay? And over here you see on the map, this is the Oswego area, and they're going to ask you the same question again. What types of rock could be found in Oswego? Okay, so now look at the legend and figure out what kind of rocks you would find in Oswego. Look at the picture, look at the legend, and then the legend will tell you what type of rocks, okay? And I'm gonna randomly pick on a student. Sammy, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello.
What's that?
Hello.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you, what type of rocks would you find in Oswego? So look at the map, Sammy. You see how you have the striped
The
lines?
lines.
Where do we
Yeah.
find on the legend the striped lines? Tell me.
You find or the Vicken.
Okay, very good.
I don't know if I'm
And
saying
then
that
what kind of rocks do they have there?
right. Sandstone or condom material. I
Right,
can't
you see,
read.
it says over here, it says limestones, shells,
Yeah.
sand, right. And again, like I said, it's a little bit of an adjustment to reading the map, but like I said, this is something that's required in earth science, and it's also required in global and even a little bit in U.S. history. So this is a very important skill that we have because it actually covers 3 different high school topics if you think about it. Okay, let's do the next question. This is an interesting question. Would you find sedimentary or metamorphic rock on Mount Marcy? So again, we have to find Mount Marcy. I don't know if it's, let me actually see what happens if I type in Marcy. So you see they actually abbreviate MT. So my little trick didn't work exactly, but that's okay. This is Mount Marcy, as you can see. And then they're asking you, will you find sedimentary or metamorphic rocks in Mount Marcy? And I saw somebody raising their hand. Joey, right? Joey, what kind of rocks would we find?
Metamorphic, because the last one was sedimentary.
So it's not sometimes sedimentary and sometimes metamorphic.
Sedimentary.
We again, it's not a guessing game. We have to look at the picture. Look at Mount Marcy. This is the picture, the legend. First of all, which geologic period is Mount Marcy? Because once we figure out which like obviously, if it's on the upper part of the chart, it's sedimentary. If it's on the bottom part of the chart, we all understand it's metamorphic. So look at the picture and try to figure out which geologic period is represented?
Intensely metamorphosed is Cambrian and Ordovician.
Right. So if you actually look at it, it is intensely metamorphic. It's the middle Proterozoic, and so it is metamorphic. But you see, I want you to understand. A lot of times, and I mean, God bless, Baruch Hashem. Everybody wants to get the right answer, but it's not just about getting the right answer. It's about understanding why the right answer is metamorphic. In other words, is it metamorphic? Is it sedimentary? That's nice. But what's really good, what's real knowledge, is I understand that, I look at the picture, I see the little lines going like this and that. I see that middle Proterozoic is a match. They look the same. Then I go over here and I see, yeah, it is metamorphic, okay? And so it's not enough that you get the answer right. You want to understand why the answer is right. And also, more importantly, in a lot of courses in high school and then college and other situations, they ask you that you have to know how to read a map. It's an important life skill also, to be truthful. Okay, but good job. All right, so we did the Mount Marcy question. Let me see where I am up to now. All right, so question 9. What type of bedrock would you find in the Allegheny Plateau? All right, so let me type that in. Let's try to find that. And it's got, let me just do this right. And so in this case, let's see if we can find let's go back for a second. Give me a second here. Question 9. Let me see if it will only show on page 2. All right, so Allegheny only shows on that page. And then let's look at, it might only be in that page. Let's see. All right, so in fact, so now I got to flip the chart. So like I said, sometimes not all the information is on page 3. A lot of the questions were, but before we had to look at page 8 and 9, and now they're making us use page 2. So now, let me just flip the chart so that we could see it. So I'm rotating it right. And now we could see the Allegheny Plateau. And does that give us the answer? Does that help us with figuring out the answer? Probably not. Let's try to look on the other page for the Allegheny. So it probably means that it's on page 9. Okay, and so now we have to figure out, this is a little tricky. This is a tricky question because we see that it happened somewhere between 232 and 359 million years ago. And we have all these different fossils, Z, Y, X, W. And again, we want to look to see if we can, so now let's look at the year. It's between 232 and 359. So now I have to go back to page, we have to go back to this page. And so we see 232 and 359. It's somewhere about over here, right? And so we see that what period is this taking place in? And so we could see, let's look at the map very, very carefully. And so we see this is the Devonian period. So now we got to go back to page 3. And what's the answer? And so the answer is limestone, shale, sandstones, and conglomerates. So that's a very hard question because basically I had to use all 4 parts of the map to figure it out. I mean, that was definitely the one of the more difficult questions that we had today. Okay, now we have a few more minutes left, so we'll use this time as wisely as we can. So here's sort of my expectations because we're going to be ending in a few minutes. Okay, we're going to do one more question, which is going to be number 10. As classwork, you have to submit questions 1 through 10. If you missed anything that I said today, you have 2 choices. 1, you can find out the answers from your friends, or 2, later today, I'm going to post the video of what we did today. You can review the video to see what you missed, okay? I'm not going to go over the answers just for the sake of going over the answers. If you missed something, you can review the video to find out what you missed, and that way, that will help you learn what you missed, because as I said before, this is a very important skill. So let's sort of try to do this in the next few minutes. So now we have to find the lowlands. So let's look for the lowlands. Okay. So over here we see the lowlands, the Lawrence lowlands actually. Let's see if they have it anywhere else on the map. Okay, so we see it's also on page 3. And so this question's a little easier because luckily we were able to find it on the map here. And so you sort of look at the map, you see the lines, and you should be able to figure out what period of time it was. So what period of time was it based on, see, because even though it's outside of the map, we know it's next to the lines. Therefore, we know whatever looks like that is going to be the answer. So which period of time are we talking about? And then that will help you figure out the type of rocks that we are talking about. David, you want to try? I just saw David. David, yes?
Yeah, I have a question. For number 9 and 10 that you were just doing, you were looking at the map, right? So you basically have to look at what rocks for the geological periods and everything.
Let's actually do number 10 now because that will help, okay?
Right.
All right. So again, here's St. Lawrence. We see the lines. Which one matches up? Aviel, go ahead. Let me try again. All right. Ooh. Go ahead.
It's Ordovican.
Right. And so therefore, what kind of rocks are we talking about?
Limestone, shale, sandstone, and dullstone.
Exactly. Okay. So we're going to be going in a few moments, but before we go, I want to talk about what next week's assignment is going to be. I mean, of course, I'm going to post it, but because I'm doing something a little different with you guys, I just want to show it to you on the website. Okay, so as you know, this is the website that we've been using, and I added a new page called My On Books Instructions. So next week, each day, you're going to have an assignment on Monday to read a book, a short book, by the way, and you're going to have to write a 1-paragraph summary about what you learned. So let me show you how this works. I click on my On Books Instructions. Over here, it shows you that you're going to pick the school name New York City Reads High School. Go New York City. The password is read. You click on the earthquake link. You then sign in. And then you start the book. Okay? And this is a book that talks about earthquakes. If you want to listen to the audio, you can listen to the audio, or you could read it yourself. And the whole idea is this is a book where basically it's going to teach you about earthquakes. It's supposed to be a high interest book. It's everything we've been learning about earthquakes in a user-friendly format. Take notes as you read it, and then you have to give me a paragraph summary about what you learned, okay? And again, here's a link for the earthquakes assignment on May 4th, and then here's a link for the tornado assignment. And again, rather than me always give you, A, B, C, D, here I'm making you read a short book, take you 30 minutes to read, if that long, and then you're going to write a paragraph about what you learned about earthquakes and tornadoes, because obviously on your test that's coming up, I believe it's either May 11th or May 12th, let me see, May 11th, you have to know about earthquakes and tornadoes, so this is a good way to help you review that. Anyhow, at this point, we are finished. Once again, if you need to review the questions, I am going to post very soon a video where you could review what we did in class today.